Marvin. How are you this morning?
Good. How you doing?
I'm great. A horror anthology series coming to Amazon Prime April 9th. I mean, the people are going to be blown away. Follows a black family, the Emerys, in the 1950s when they moved from North Carolina to East Compton, in an all-white neighborhood at that time, during the Great Migration. The story, at its core, for me, explores the horrors and the realities of racism at that time. Little Marvin, what was the intention for you when you set out to create the series?
Um, from a few things, but I would say that I think that when you see photos from this time and you see photos in black and white, and people look rather stoic, I think what it does is it flattens the image. It almost traps it in amber so that you don't see that these were human beings.
Right.
Right? These were human beings facing tremendous amounts of terror at all times. And so what I wanted to do was sort of like rip through that photo and really grapple with the humanity, put the viewer in the driver's seat, allow you to feel what it actually would feel like. We
Right.
see pictures of little Ruby Bridges on her first day of school, and adult folk are yelling at this child. That was a child, right? So I again, I think like rooting this in the emotional and the psychological lives of our characters and allowing that humanity to lead was really the beginning of the journey.
I have to ask you, Little Marvin, there have been talks, the trailer dropped, and people are already comparing
Oh,
it.
oh,
Oh,
are they?
they
I
are.
didn't
They're
know
already
this as
comparing
well.
them to us. So I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on the comparisons? What are your thoughts? Talk to us.
Oh Lord. My first thought is I'm glad I'm not on Twitter. That's my first thought. My my second thought is anyone who has actually seen our show, not just a trailer,
Right.
but who has
Right.
actually seen our show, has never ever made that comparison.
Mm-mm.
So I suppose what I would hope is that we can eventually get to a place where there are so many of us in the sandbox. And when I say so many of us, I mean Black storytellers in genre and all levels of filmmaking, that there are so many of us that you can't even make those comparisons.
Definitely. That's so good. Little Marvin, what is your hope when people finally get to sit down and watch this film where their families are by themselves on April 9th? What is your hope? What do you want people to feel when they watch this?
I hope, I think what any artist hopes is that their work sparks a certain level of curiosity about the way that we live. I think that curiosity is the first step towards some level of compassion, that you
Right.
have compassion for folks if you don't see beyond yourself and see
Mm.
what folks are going through. So I suppose my hope would be that on top of being entertained, that it sparks a certain level of curiosity about the way we live. Yeah.
And how far have we evolved from the 50s? Because watching it, I'm looking at it and the overt racism, it was, very overt, right? And we still live in a time where it's still very overt. Have we evolved at all? When you were making this, did you feel like, okay, this is still happening right now? And, I know the film was made the series was made in 2019, but do you feel like the similarities were still here?
Every single day. I mean,
Hmm.
we would look, we would be shooting scenes, actually shooting scenes, and then we turn to each other and be like, "Didn't we just see this in the news?" Like this is, and we'd already written it a year before that, and so
Right.
like this kind of story, it's both. The sad part is that I could have told this story at any point over the last few. Let's just stretch all the way back, and it would have been as relevant. I think what's interesting about releasing the story now is that
Mm.
I don't know, man. We're in a place of like catharsis in this country. I think we're grappling with who we want to be.
Mm.
Half the country, we're divided. Do we want to go back or are we trying to go forward? This is
Right.
where we're, and I think that the story asks that same question of viewers.
Definitely. And where does the series go next? Are you guys already working on season two? Because I know that you're going to explore different stories throughout. There will be different people, a different cast of characters. Is that right? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're gonna begin soon, and and yes, every story will be a different time period, different folks. But what will stay the same is that it will always take folks who are largely marginalized and historically never at the center of these kinds of stories, and we're going to pull them from the margins and put them front and center in their own stories of American terror. So every year it will be that.
Where is the buzz?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
is the buzz? You said we used to be was ashamed, mine.